Today is a very, very special day at our Christian Center, and in just a few moments I'm going to tell you the reason why. And this program comes to you from the platform, our Christian Center, 235 East Miller Street on Elmira South Side. We have a very special guest speaker, and it's different than we've usually had, and very unusual. He has a tremendous testimony of healing, tremendous testimony of miracles that occurred in his life back from the time when he was born. And he is going to let you know that what God did for him, he can do for you. And the miracles that God brought in his life, God can bring in your life. And so, would you stay tuned? And maybe you ought to get on the phone. And if you know somebody who is sick or diseased, or they're in pain, or perhaps their health is gone, why don't you get on the telephone right now and call them up and say, Brother John is on WENY right now, and he has a very special guest speaker, and they will be glad that you called them, I am sure. Would you do that? And call them up right now, and I'm sure they will thank you for it. And our guest speaker today, his name is Robert Organ, and that's an unusual name, isn't it, Bob?
Shows that God has a sense of humor, I think. Divine providence in there.
By the way, how old are you, Bob?
I'm 33.
You're 33 years old, and today you are going to be telling a tremendous story this morning at 10:30, and then tonight at 6:30.
Amen.
Tonight at 6:30 and this morning at 10:30. And you have a tremendous story to tell. What is your ministry now?
Our ministry is called Shekinah Glory Ministries, and I give my testimony. God gave me a great opportunity with my testimony when I was born. My heart was on the wrong side. Both my lungs were collapsed, and most of my organs, God has a sense of humor, were pushed up in the left side of my chest. My intestines, stomach, spleen, part of my pancreas, my liver was torn, and my spleen was ruptured and removed. So when I was born, I was completely blue because of the lack of oxygen, and they operated when I was only 4 hours old. My parents are, of course, ministers, and they were praying for me to be healed, and they did the surgery. I was the only one in the state of New Jersey that ever survived that type of surgery.
May I ask you something? This medical problem that you had, was it unusual? Ordinarily, would you have died?
Yes, most people die from it. Nowadays, when it takes place, I've heard that they actually, before the baby is even born, they will even remove the baby and perform the operation and then place it back into the woman, because there's such small chances of a baby surviving, and that's it's called a diaphragmatic hernia.
Is that unusual?
Yes.
Diaphragmatic hernia,
Yes.
right? All right, may I ask you something? Did the newspapers pick up the story?
Yeah, basically it took them about a week, and it was on the front page of the Trenton Evening Times, and also in our Pentecostal Evangel that the Assemblies of God puts out, had it, and it was like a healing update, and they told how, if you have anything wrong with your body, whether it's your heart, lungs, God can heal you, and I take absolutely no medicines now. I'm completely healed by the power of God and through prayer. Even on the front page of that newspaper, even though they gave credit to the doctors, in the newspaper it said that they believed that, my parents said they believed that prayer and faith in God was of vital importance.
Now, you have been healthy ever since?
Yes, no physical problems. I had slight stomach problems when I was 2 and 3, and when I was 3 years old, I was having I still remember having the stomach aches when I was a kid. It was only my stomach, and I would have bad stomach pains, and they prayed I was going to have to go to the doctors, to the hospital, because my intestines became tangled, and they prayed for me one more time, like it says for to do in the Bible, lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. And I was healed, and I didn't have to go to the doctors or anything, and I've been healed ever since. No medicines or anything.
Can you name off all these dozen things?
I wish you would have brought the list with you.
Can you just name them off again? I know
All
you
the
named
things
them.
that are wrong. My heart was on the wrong side. Both lungs were collapsed, but one lung had 10% capacity. That's why it was blue. My liver was torn. My diaphragm was almost completely missing, which is what causes the diaphragmatic hernia. The diaphragm has a hole. Most cases it has a hole in it. Mine was almost completely missing, which is why all the organs and intestines were pushed up. So the stomach, the spleen, the pancreas, part of the liver, and some other things were all pushed up into the left side of my chest. So what the doctor had to do is he had to, number one, remove my spleen, which is a miracle of God also because the spleen purifies the blood and it prevents infection. So just for God keeping me healthy, just from that is also a miracle. And the doctor basically, I usually elaborate a little bit more on this, but the doctor put me back together the way he thought. I think God just